It may be a shorter
problem.
meeting than anticipated because Freddie is not able to be here today, so we may end up tabling her agenda item.
I think if she's not here, we're gonna have to table it, right?
Right, and I think Janet can speak to it briefly because I know she's our, I think she was,
Liaison.
yep, communicating with Freddie recently, so.
Okay, we are on YouTube, so you can call the meeting to order if
All
you
right, we'll
would like
do,
to.
it is 11:07. This is Friday, the 16th of December. This is the Southborough Library Board of Trustees meeting. The first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of November 18th. Do we have corrections, additions, emendations?
I did receive some edits between sending them out at the beginning of the week and to now.
Yeah.
So I know that the section on the ad hoc committee was updated with the minutes you received this morning.
Mhm.
And then there were some, I was just gonna double check it. There was some additional grammatical suggestions, which I was just gonna make sure were integrated. But not to call out our friend Mr. Eckberg, but he was good. He read through all of them. He gave me some great suggested language changes that I think clarified some of the points. So, and
Okay,
thank you to Jane as well for sending me in.
Okay, good. So what we have in hand that you sent this morning about an hour ago is the amended minutes. So
Yeah.
everyone have a chance to look at those, and those will be what we're voting on.
Yeah, the only thing that was different from the ones you got yesterday was
Mhm.
again that ad hoc committee section. I think it's only 2 sentences.
Right. Trustee Manning suggested documenting reasons as to why the library needs more space. This document should be prepared for use in discussions with the committee. Ryan, library staff, and library trustees will contribute to a document.
Yeah, sorry, 3 sentences. So
We can just put a comma between them, run them all together. All right, so
I have 2 or 3 pedantic, as usual, comments under
Okay.
Santa Day on the first page.
Yep.
This is the age-old question as to whether or not, when we refer to the library, whether it's a capital L or a lowercase L. I don't know what the right answer to that is, but I just
the
point that out.
Southborough Library is a proper, both should be titled. The library by itself should just be a lowercase L.
Okay, and also on that same line, that's a run-on sentence. So after holiday tree period, and then a new sentence starting also comma, a book sale will take place on the main floor.
All right. Any others?
On the bottom of the under expense report, after the word platform, I think you can just delete that comma. On the next page, under find free library, I think on the second line, I think Commonwealth needs to be capitalized. And then on the 1 to 3rd line, trustees, that should have an apostrophe after it. It's plural possessive. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Which
after
wait a minute,
the
which
word
trustees?
approval,
Where are
probably
you?
Where are you?
The
It
word
does
the.
have an apostrophe. Find free library, line 2, end of the line with trustees. There's an apostrophe after the S.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now
Yeah, there is.
maybe I have 2 or 3 copies of this, so maybe I'm working off the wrong one.
I think that has been what am I want? I think that what we're looking at may have some of your edits in it already.
Okay. All right, I'll stop there then.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's
no, no,
possible,
no.
David, because the revised version was the edits that you sent me.
Okay,
Yeah,
enough said.
no. Okay,
Thank you.
so we're good. Okay, so
I'll
we're
double check the things he mentions in this meeting, though. I go back and watch the recording. Was there
Okay.
anything else, though, that you guys want in there?
I would say after the word Commonwealth, once it's capitalized, Commonwealth, and maybe insert the word throughout the country, but that's again pedantry.
No, editing, close editing. We like that. we we think this is a good thing. Any other input on this? Nope. Okay, good.
Would
So
would the board make a motion to,
okay, do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Okay, that's Janet, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Go, Jane.
Okay, we'll give that one to Jane. That was the voice we. All
Also,
right.
Amy was in there.
Trustee
It
Landry,
could be
aye.
Amy, it's fine.
Trustee Ekberg,
Aye.
Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Maney,
Aye.
Trustee Reagan,
Aye.
and Trustee Yazdani. Are you with us?
Aye.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So minutes approved. Please thank Mariana for doing her usual fabulous job on these. And thank you, David, for the edits. Okay. The next order of business is the director's report, but before I do that, I'd like to say that item number 6, Freddie is not able to be with us, so we will probably table that number 6. All right. So
Can I-
to the
well, hold on. I think since we're at that item now, Marguerite,
Mhm,
if
yeah.
you'll entertain this, I think Janet, right, didn't we say that Janet got a chance to speak with Freddie? I know Freddie reached out to me yesterday and I had already gone home for the day. And I
Mhm.
think she also reached out to you, Marguerite. So, you know, I think generally we're very supportive of what Freddie wants to do, but just since we have it on the agenda, if Janet, if you want to provide
Yeah.
just a brief update of your conversation, I think that would be good.
What, is that okay, Marguerite?
Yes, it's fine.
Yes, okay.
Go for it.
So yeah, Freddie's having trouble. She was in a car accident. She also, her computer crashed on her when she was trying to download something. What she would like to do is put together a presentation on that next step we talked about of that area that looks awful in front of the rock wall. And she wants to put in an application for a grant through CPC to cover the expenses, which I don't think would be great, but instead of taking up our time in trustee meeting, because she thought she could get it done for today, but we had a lot of other things on the agenda and stuff. She was talking about putting together a presentation, which we could then send out, watch at our leisure and discuss at the next meeting.
That makes sense.
Which will be the 20th of
Right.
January. Does anyone have an objection to that?
I have one more sentence.
Okay, go for it. Sorry.
I'm not sure what the timing is for CPC approvals. And she has put a marker in there to hold a spot. But if we get into a time crunch there where we're not going to meet in time to vote for her to submit it on time, then she was hoping we could review it and give our comments to Ryan and move ahead with it that way instead of waiting for monthly meetings. So we'll see how it works out.
Yes, thank you. And I think the CPC meeting that needs the a library trustee approval is on the 12th of January, and we are meeting on the 20th of January. So Janet,
Yeah,
There you
so
go. We had a problem.
the timing, you know, as with many things in town, is not going to work out here. You know, this is not going to be, I think, a surprise to many of you because we have talked about this project. This was something that was, you know, has been under discussion now at this point for years, right? So I think generally, as long as I'm able to report back to the board about what the activity is that's going on in that area, as long as once the application to the CPC is completed, we're able to share that information with the rest of the board. I would say if you have comments or concerns about anything that's in the application, if we could go through, you could send those in to me individually, and then I'm happy to report back to Freddie. If there's a substantive problem, like you guys really don't want something to happen and we need to call a meeting, we could do that, but I just don't think that that is most likely going to be necessary as a result of this. We all know that there was going to be a, you know, sort of an additional
phase 2.
request coming in, right? So, you know, again, I think because it's being funded by CPC too, you know, I'm in support of the project. I think that, you know, again, we're looking to kind of restart the seed exchange in March. That is something that the Friends group is going to support. So we've talked about ways with those planners, which are kind of in a, a semi-adjacent area. We're talking about making that more of a community space where we can involve volunteers. So that might naturally lead into volunteers who would also help out with the native plant area and with Freddie's initiatives. So, there's a certain synergy, I think, in doing it this year that I think it hopefully will work out.
Good. Go
And
ahead, Ann.
not for a formal vote, but is there anybody who feels concerned about this? Or because maybe we should surface those a little bit now and Freddie could address those issues.
Okay, that's a really good question. As I understand it, she is talking about cleaning up the brush and debris and dead limbs under the trees that are next to the stone wall up near the north. And it was phase 2 when she first brought the project. This was planting ground cover that would be low and would do okay in the shade. So as I understand it, we already know what this is about. It is the thing that she called phase 2, and she is trying to be compliant with the trustees' request that anytime we're named in a grant, we should have an okay before the grant is submitted. So that's the CPC situation. So
Janet, is there any sense that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Janet's our guy on the ground for this here.
Janet, do you have any sense as to how much time Freddie is going to need to make her presentation?
It might be up to half an hour, which is hard for us to fit into a trustee meeting. So, and I think we need to get it done before then anyway.
Okay.
How much is the grant offering, or how much would she be getting?
I don't remember that. It's not a ton of money. It's to buy plants.
No.
Hopefully the new DPW head will be supportive of cleaning things up there on a schedule that works for us. But yeah, I would imagine I don't think it's a great deal, but I don't know. I wouldn't imagine it's $5,000, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Freddie did
Have a sense of
mention that to me, sorry, Janet, I
It's
didn't mean
okay.
to cut you off. I was just going to say, Freddie mentioned to me that she wanted to make sure that the trustees were okay with this before proceeding with an application. So I don't think, I don't know if she was at the stage yet where she had done a full budget. I was going to circle back with her, Jane, to get, once a copy of the grant is submitted to CPC, if we could just get a copy of that grant, so we would have that information about what the amount is. I think that's just so we know in case somebody has a question, I think would be good.
I don't think she can submit it without our approval. I think we need to get that step done before she can submit it.
But she can show us the application, right?
Right. Well, she's going to make this presentation anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will include.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I would
No, that
suggest to
sounds
her
fine.
to work on the application and not a half an hour long presentation. I'm sure she can present it much shorter. And so she's not, burning her candle at both ends.
Good point, Amy. And what I'm hoping for is that instead of the half an hour presentation, we will all have read and seen the presentation, basically the filmed PowerPoint, as part of our packet for our next meeting, so that we will be ready to go with the discussion rather than doing the PowerPoint during the meeting. That is my hope.
But she needs a decision before the meeting. Isn't that what you're saying? The 12th is when the CPC's meeting.
Yes, and so I
Yeah.
guess my question is there anyone who has an objection to, as far as we are educated on this, being okay with her proceeding with, it's not a vote, we're not taking a vote, but are there any strong objections to this probable application as it stands?
No.
If I may, you would be
Yes.
sort of providing conditional approval for her to proceed with what she wants to do.
Good word, okay.
To Trustee Yazdani's point, I don't know if a companion presentation would be necessary after the grant application is distributed and you guys read the grant. I mean, again, this is not a new project. We were kind of aware that this was going to be on the horizon. And I think, my understanding is that generally we support this, right? This has been discussed in prior meetings. So I'm not anticipating a lot of questions from you guys, but again, I don't want to speak for you on that point. I think the main thing here is to keep the lines of communication open, right? Because a couple years ago, I think they weren't. And I think, we took a lot of steps to get to a place where we could all communicate. So, the timing of the CPC grants, we know this from experience, is it's difficult to navigate because of a town meeting schedule. So I have a certain amount of sympathy. I know that there are things going on in Freddie's personal life that have made it more challenging, right? So, I think as long as the board has no objections to sort of conditionally proceeding with this, the path forward would be to kind of say, okay, and just keep us in the loop.
I
Is
think that's
everybody
Sounds
okay?
good. Yeah, that
Everybody's
sounds
good with
good.
that?
Yep.
Kim and Amy, we can't see you nodding.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Okay, so conditional approval, and waiting for more, data. How's that?
Well, really, the only data is the numbers, right?
Amount, yeah, I just sent her a text saying, what's the amount?
Yeah, and I don't know whether we would have an objection to whatever it comes out to, is if the CPC is
Yeah,
gonna.
it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's curious.
It
I was
also
just
needs to
I
get
was just
approved at a town
curious.
meeting,
Yeah,
right?
If
Because
it was
all CPC
5,000.
articles, yeah. Sorry, Jane.
No, I was just curious if it was 500 or, 5,000. I can't
Yeah.
imagine it's huge, but
it's not
I
that
don't
big
know.
either.
Know what I know.
Okay. Okay,
I know that there's limited CPA funding available now after our project and the townhouse project. So I would agree with you, Jane. I don't think the dollar amount is going to be like a shockingly high number
Yeah.
for this.
Probably
I
not.
also, I also think we'll continue trying to coordinate with DPW. And as Janet mentioned, there's going to be a new DPW superintendent. There's an interim one now. So I think, that hopefully we can continue that collaboration and have their assistance with this project moving forward.
All right, good. Any
Okay.
other comments or questions on that? Good, okay, thank you. Ryan, Director's Report.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of tackle the FY24 budget as a separate issue. I know Mr. Valentine over at the townhouse has been really good about giving me extra time to talk to you guys about it. But there has been a lot of moving parts sort of on the town side. As far as FY23 spending, things are progressing pretty well. We're exactly where we're kind of supposed to be with educational spending. We're getting to the halfway mark at the end of December. So I'm pretty happy with that. A lot of the, I've tried to get most of our vendors on a fiscal year cycle. Some of them don't do billing that way. They only do it on a calendar year cycle. So there's going to be a couple subscription, recurring bills that come in on January. So Newsbank and Wowbrary are the two ones in particular I highlighted in the director's report. We also discovered with our fantastic new staff member, Libby Goudreau, she has experienced when she was at Framingham with using a subset of our museum pass system. There was a way to kind of use a companion platform for events. So it turns out they had turned on access to that. Libby started using it. I just double checked with the vendor because it wasn't something we were paying for. And they did say, oh, yes, you do have to pay for that. So it was not a very high expense. We got a discount a little bit because we already had Tickskeeper. If we do revise the budget, I will just have to add that amount in, but it was only $475, which is, I think we're already using printouts of this new platform to kind of highlight what events are taking place in what areas of the library, which has been personally something I've been trying to work with a staff member on to get done over the past couple months. So thank you to Libby for finding that. Thank you to the Plymouth Rocket team for, they gave us a free month because we discovered the blender, so we appreciated that. So December is free.
That
And
was
that
nice.
so I don't know if anybody has questions about just kind of taking the expense report, or if you want to talk about FY23 budget, I'm happy to speak to any of those, but we're doing good.
It's really Plymouth Rocket Company.
Plymouth Rocket is the company, the vendor that makes Tixkeeper and Event Keeper, which is what we have now, which are the platforms for museum passes and now the events.
What a great name.
Ryan, can I ask you a question about the service renewal with Biblioteca?
Yes.
So you had mentioned that the library can move to new platform at the same price in the spring. So, oh, maybe I misread this.
I could have miswrote it.
No, I thought I had read something that said you were going to look into other libraries
Yeah.
updates.
No, you didn't. That might have been in the previous director's report. So there were, I did say too, if there's any trustees that want to join me in this exploration, the two closest libraries to us that are using the software are the Worcester Public Library and the Shrewsbury Public Library. So I actually did in September a CMLA, we had our CMLA annual meeting in Shrewsbury, and sadly I did not try the self-check because I didn't know then what I know now, which is that they're on the new software package. So I'm going to try to take some trips there after New Year's and just explore the software package to see how significantly different it is from ours. The one other thing I'll note about this, Kim, is when I talked to the technician, he mentioned that when we did a physical hardware upgrade, it did put the self-check out of commission for about a week. So I don't know. We also will have to iron out, I would say, any sort of software hiccups. Like we might have the platform up, and then if we need to make changes, hopefully that can be done remotely. It might have to require the technician coming back. So there'll be a period of time where the self-check is unavailable. I think our patrons will kind of notice that now because there are people who kind of exclusively use self-checkout. So I think part of that was I wanted to advertise, the self-check is getting an upgrade. It will be unavailable for however long we want to set the time frame.
Yep. What is the timing for the annual service contract?
Like the when we get the bill, or
so I think in the report you had said it can be upgraded as part of the annual service contract. Is that at a specific, what?
Yes. So when we did the hardware upgrade, the reason I noted that was because when we did the hardware upgrade, we literally had to buy a new physical, because it's a computer, basically the self-check, right? Yeah. So it runs on a Windows sort of I don't know what to call it, but it's like a PC, but like it doesn't look
system.
Yeah. So the physical hardware is not covered under the service contract, and we had to pay for the new computer component when that happened, because our previous one couldn't get upgraded to Windows 10. The software that we're now going to transition to is something that is covered under the service contract. So by renewing it and having a regular service contract each year, this is something that's covered under that expense.
Ryan, what was the cost of the hardware purchase?
Oh, it was like that was years ago. It was just under $3,000. It was pretty significant.
And the new one?
Well, we're not upgrading the hardware, but
Okay.
the software, our annual service contract, just for your own edification, is about $1,500 a year.
Wow.
So that cost, which we recently paid, it would cover the upgrade. So, I don't think we often take advantage of the service contract because, obviously it runs and we don't have to worry about the self-check as much, except when our network goes down. I think this would be a great way to take advantage of the fact that we're covered, right, under our service contract, and to do an upgrade to the self-check. So it went from, should we do it? Is this the right decision? To I'm definitely leaning now, Kim, towards, pulling the trigger on this, I think in 2023, and really just doing the upgrade. What I would like is just for my own edification and to prepare the staff to help the public on this, is to kind of go to a library and explore the software package on places where it's installed.
Okay, where it has already been upgraded so you can see the user experience.
Yeah, and if you buy a new machine, like let's say in many years when we do a library expansion and we want more self-checkout kiosks, right? They sell the kiosks now with the new software package. So we'd kind of be getting upgraded software with a new machine anyway. So that's kind of worth noting.
Gotcha.
If you need somebody to go look at them, I'll go with you, Ryan.
Well,
I
that's
will
great.
I'm probably going to take you up on that. Anybody who wants to go visit. I also have a package of stuff. When I was at the New England Library Association conference that Worcester donated for the CMLA booth. So I have to bring it back to Jason Homer, who's the executive director over there. So I have like an excuse to go to Worcester, and I haven't been there in years. So I was going to try to do that. They're also going to be hosting a legislative breakfast, I believe in January or February. So that might be another opportunity to go and see
That's great.
what the self-check is like.
The self-check has been wonderful.
It's very popular now. I can
Yeah.
tell you that people like it.
Yeah. Good. All right. Any other questions about the director's report? No? All right. Then how about,
Who is Julie Stepanek?
She is the vendor who is doing our ukulele program. She's so we've done it twice virtually. She's coming in person for the January sessions.
No, she's a vendor. Okay, got it.
A vendor, yeah.
okay, good. Any other questions about the director's report?
I should also mention the Friends are supporting that program. So I had it up on the website that it was part of a Cultural Arts Council grant, but that was because I copied it from the previous virtual session. The Friends voted and approved it, and we are very appreciative of that.
Yes,
So thank
we
you,
are.
Friends of
Thank
the
you to the
Southfield Library.
friends. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. It's a wonderful program. All right, expense report.
Yeah, so that I think we kind of went through that too. If there's
Mhm.
any questions about the expense report at this point.
No,
No, it looks
We've
good.
started just to close the financials. We have started initially paying for some of the cooking grant programs. So we've expended some of the money there. We are using the SurveyMonkey platform to send out sort of a follow-up survey to
Mhm.
attendees from the cooking programs. I do wish more people were filling that out. I think we only have maybe 1 or 2 responses. And we've done, I think, 2 or 3 programs at this point. So if you do attend a cooking program and you do get a link to a survey, this is for trustees and for the public watching, please fill the survey out. It helps us and it's required as part of the grant. So thanks.
I was just wondering any way to incentivize people. It's sort of like, yes, if you want more grants, please help us and fill out the survey, right?
I can give them a library pen and a library magnet if they
There you
complete
go.
it. So.
Swag. It's Ryan's swag. It's good.
Also, they just voted additional materials at the last Friends meeting this week. So thank you, Friends of the Southborough Library, for providing pens and magnets.
Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. If there are no further questions on the expense report, I would like to move to the budget because we have some changes there, which and ultimately will require a vote. Ryan, do you want to explain why our budget has changed?
Well, this is, I think, the first meeting we're actually kind of taking a look at the overall budget. Because we've talked about it. We talked about it last month, but I didn't have a draft. So shortly after the last meeting, I did send you a draft at the 4% number, which is kind of what we were looking for. And then we got additional information about the salary changes, which were also noted in the last meeting, and I mentioned might require a change, right? So again, this is sort of that budget roulette that we do every year, where I send you guys a budget, then I get feedback from the town that we have to change some of the numbers for this particular reason. So with the salary changes that are going into effect, the change, ended up being closer to a 5%. I can tell you in the increase, which is just under $30,000 from FY23 to FY24, over 25,000 of that is going into the salaries expense. I will also tell you, prior to this meeting, I was at the personnel board meeting, which was still going on when I left. They took votes in this meeting, which also may ultimately affect the budget request. So this is going to be something where this is the budget that you have on the table based on the information we had prior to this meeting. I would recommend that you deliberate over this and then vote on this request. But most likely every meeting, I'm going to have a new budget and I'm going to have to go over the changes. And the helpful part of this is Marguerite has been on the board for many years. She knows this. I know Kim and Jane have been on the board. I think they've had to do this. We're approving a budget every meeting around the season before. And then Janet, with her experience on advisory, she knows that this is not really our fault, right?
We're the ones that would make people revise their budgets.
Yes, Janet, we remember you were always very merciful, however.
So, one of the things that's on the table is I have been working a lot with the consultant that the personnel board has been working with, and we had them interview one of our senior library assistants. There is a there was an agenda item to look at reclassifying the senior library assistants into a new grade, a higher grade, based on their responsibilities, which I'm in support of. The consultant was kind of talking about semantics with the job title. She was thinking maybe that it should be titled something different. So I may come to you in January with a recommendation to retitle it. The recommendation from the consultant was to call it assistant librarian, which is something that I believe that it was called many, 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 many years ago. Typically in the library environment, you do not give a title of librarian unless the person is a degreed professional. So my recommendation for a grade 4 title for the staff members who would be, we can specifically say who it would affect, which is Leah Selleck and Carol Logan. We would put them into a job title. My recommendation would be to call it library supervisor. Whether or not the personnel board has feedback on that, we could see, but that would be consistent, I think, with what other libraries, with what I've seen as far as the title. Again, there have been times where I've wanted to go in and I've wanted to call a job something else. We get a lot of feedback. We end up calling it something else. It may remain senior library assistant. We'll have to kind of see how the whole thing shakes out. But at this point, I'm veering off topic from the budget. So I'm sorry.
No, it is going to be, because this is pretty major. Yeah.
It's going to be something that kind of comes back. You can see in the individual line items, I don't think there's anything in there that is really surprising. A lot of the subscription and dues fees are standardized. The one thing that would be changed in a future revision, again, is the inclusion of that Event Keeper platform for $475. So that would probably, at this point, I think that expense could be absorbed, or we would even look at, supplementing that through grant or state aid if necessary. But I think we can find the $475. I'm very good at negotiating discounts with our vendors, right? So that would be an aim of mine. And then, the program budget, I did get some feedback this year that maybe we should look at trying to add an amount that would hopefully facilitate at least one extra program a year so that we could start to reduce our reliance on grant funds, right? A lot of the cooking programs that you're going to see in the next year from the library are a direct result of that LSTA grant. So, we're not going to have one of those next year. I'm not applying for one. So that, if we want to continue programming, I think we'll have to look at kind of supplementing that out of the budget.
So Ryan, just a quick question for you, and then I'd like to hear from everybody on the board. 2 questions, actually. One, how much more reclassification of library employees do you foresee as a result of this salary study? Have they talked to all the staff separately to ascertain what their jobs are?
No, but I have provided like a lot of feedback to the consultant this week. There was, I sent her all the job descriptions, so that she could review that. I sent her all of the questionnaires again that we did initially, last year. I also did a survey because there was a whole question about acquisitions work. So just for your edification, I think many of you are aware of this, but Pat Ellis, who was a senior library assistant when I arrived at the library in 2014, was doing a lot of the acquisitions work for the adult collection. So that practice has continued with our paraprofessional staff. Our consultant was not aware that non-librarians, right, people without the professional degree, did this type of work. So I reached out to my contemporaries in CW Mars, and I got a lot of feedback. I think I received somewhere between 50 to 60 responses total. I sent her about half of those because I got them all in the first day. That was I got like 30, so there was a lot of emails I got. But I would say about 80% of the libraries that responded in some level have a non-degreed professional doing some form of acquisitions work. So it's a pretty significant, that's a pretty significant number. And I think that was a big factor in the recommendation to reclassify the position. I should say the personnel board also needs to accept that recommendation. They did not do that at this meeting. They tabled it to January. So if this is a discussion you want to follow, I'm happy to let you know when that next meeting is, and then you can attend with me. I don't typically speak at the meetings. I just observe them. So if that's something that you want to follow, let me know and I'll keep you in the loop.
I think we would all support getting all of our staff paid appropriately. Anything we need to do to get there.
You're here. I agree.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
agree
exactly.
too.
Yes, thank you. So
We hear you, Amy.
yeah. So I think
Marguerite,
yes.
no, I was going to say, but I'm going to have to go in about 10 minutes, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in for increasing the programming budget. It needs to be increased every year. We rely so heavily on grants that could disappear tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then, all the efforts Ryan has gone to, will have to disappear again. And so we don't ask for a lot, and just asking for a little more, I don't think is asking too much.
The grants could dry up, you're right. And my other question was, how efficient a use is it of everyone's time to be writing grants? Maybe,
Exactly.
yeah, it's very time consuming, and it's not really free money when you consider the amount of time that the library staff has to put in on that. So thank you, Amy. Anything else you'd like to add to that before we lose you?
No, I think we all, understand about the salaries. That's out of our control. And if the budget changes because of that, we're, obviously nobody's upset about it on Ryan's end. He's doing the best he can with what he's given. So thank you for all your hard work on it, Ryan.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Amy. Other comments from the board about salaries and programming? I guess those are the two issues right now.
I mean, it could be about all of it,
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Amy. I mean, we have no control over the salary part, but programs definitely. I mean, I've been on the board long enough to know that we cut all the program money completely just to conform to the budget we needed to produce. So, and then we were completely dependent on the friends or just whatever we could scrounge together for free. So if we can increase that budget, that would be great and a lot easier on Ryan and the staff.
The other thing is I assume that providers are increasing their rates like everything else that's going up. So Ryan is probably getting less for the same amount of money even, which
I'm sure,
is,
yeah.
You do see us work with a lot of repeat vendors, like, Mr. Eckberg noted Julie in the director's report. a lot of the vendors that we recurringly book, and this is the same for Kim with summer reading programs, kind of lock in a rate for us because A, they're aware that we have limited funding available for this. They have experience working with public libraries that, often don't have significant funding for stuff like this. And then also just, our vendors are great. Like the ones that we have back, I think provide great programs, people attend them and enjoy them. And so it's nice to kind of have that, they're part of the library extended family is sort of how I feel about it. But I in particular, Mandy Roberge, who does the craft programs for the kids, she is someone where I think if you're a new library booking her, she has a particular rate that has sort of increased with inflation rates. But what she charges us is kind of based on, I think, historic rates that have been offered to the library. And I would just say, we're very appreciative of the vendors working with us. And I think I said this before, I'm not adverse to trying to get a bargain when I can.
Nor should you be.
This is New England, right?
Squeezing those nickels.
It's true. However, the programs are such a wonderful part of the library, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah, I just
really are.
wanted, Marguerite, if I just wanted to weigh in on the programming. I agree with everyone that our budget should be, where it is, or what Ryan has recommended. But Ryan, did you ever connect with the resident on the EDC who is considering trying to hire a part-time grant writer?
I have had additional discussions with the town about that just to see where they're at with everything. I need to follow up more, Kim, on that. I have stated, and I'll restate here, that if there is an entity that would assist the library with grant writing, I am very open to that. I think I think the problematic element with it comes in that the library grants are so esoteric, and that with LSTA grants in particular, they sort of like do all the advertising and all of the trainings specifically for library staff, right? So it makes more sense for Mariana and I to kind of collaborate on a particular grant than it would potentially with an outside entity. But with something like the Mass Cultural Council, which is, they were very kind to us and gave us some very high level grants over the last years. If you recall, Betsy Rosenblum, who was a former trustee, was kind of one of the primary people who helped me with that grant. So, if there is a grant writer available, or there's somebody who wants to assist with some of the research, and I can talk with them, and they can kind of take some of the narrative elements I can provide and put that into really nice grant wording, it's something that I'd like to pursue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're pursuing it in the right way. I think it makes sense to pursue the grants that will give us the high impact and work on the ones that you and Mariana would specifically have to. And anything that, would be helpful with other town entities, if we can pursue that, great. But I do agree with the rest of you that as a baseline, our programming budget should be significant enough so you can do your job and not, spend too much time pursuing grants that are, not a sure bet. So, where we can use it to augment new and different programs, I think that's great. But it sounds like you have a good sensibility on, how much time to expend and, what it'll bring back to the library.
I mean, our
I
grant
think-
should be for icing on the cake, not for standard programming, I think. That is my opinion on it. Like, it should be the extras that Ryan doesn't have in the budget already, but he's heard about that's exciting and applies for the grant. But that's,
This kind of came up too, Kim, during the you know, kind of my revising the town report for this year is that if you look at the entities that provide grant funding to the library, it tends to be the same groups over and over again. We're talking about our local cultural arts council. We're talking about the community foundation. We're talking about, you know, we always thank the Friends and couldn't do what we do without the support that the Friends provide for the programming. I think the thing I'd like to engage with a potential grant writer is that there are grants and there is funding out there that we could be taking advantage of that A, isn't on my radar, and B, with working with the groups that are pre-established, that already takes up so much time that I don't really have, to be honest, the capacity to even do the research to find the opportunities that are out there. So that I think is where we could really make that connection with somebody who's doing this on a bigger scale.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And because the library grants are, as you said, esoteric, it's almost as if it would be really interesting if libraries from a different area could pool one grant writing person who would be familiar with that. But I suppose that's kind of cloud cuckoo land. I would not be averse to more public awareness of which grants we're getting.
We try to do that in the town meeting handout
Yeah,
too. You know, I think Kim helped me a lot.
yeah, that was
I'm saying
good.
helped me when she did, you know, I would say 99% of the work. But she, you know, we were able to pool a lot of that information and kind of have a visual element for just how much money, you know, the library gets from grant funding over some of the last couple of handouts. But I mean, it's significant. I mean, we're not able to do what we do without the outside entities. And it's just having the program budget, I'm going to tell all of you, is much better than not having the program budget for
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. So
Yeah.
it's just the fact that this is still I think something that gets us you know, conversing a lot. It's highlighted how important this is and how this needs to be, I think, kind of a budget priority in
Yeah.
future cycles too.
Definitely, yeah. Any other observations about this? No? Okay. So Ryan, where are we on budget FY24? We're supposed to conditionally approve something that we know is going to change.
Isn't that, don't you do that though, anytime you
All
approve a
the
budget?
All the
All the
time.
time,
So
yeah.
what I would do, what I would recommend at this point, Marguerite, is if there's no objections, is to make a motion to approve the budget that was in your packet at the 5% increase.
All
So
right.
that's at you know, 617,102 is the final amount. And then I will send that to Brian Ballantyne and to Mr. Purple so that they have our budget and then they can share that with the advisory committee and you know, any of the other invested stakeholders. But I think advisory has wanted the budgets like for weeks and they haven't gotten the library. So, you know, I've kind of communicated the ballpark to Brian, but I said that you guys had to have a discussion and approve it first. What I will say is before you take your vote, in my discussion with Brian, you know, he said that a majority of the budgets are coming in at somewhere between 8 to 11%.
Whoa.
So this is a big year for budget increases. A lot of that has to do with the salary study. So he did not anticipate that there would be pretty significant questions from the advisory committee this year or from the select board, but he also can't speak for those groups and neither can I, right? I always think it's good for us to interface with them during the budget season. Sometimes that's our only chance to meet with those groups and, you know, at the very least say hello. There aren't a lot of new budget initiatives. Part of that is I knew the salary classification study was on the horizon, but also just because we're focused on implementing that LSTA grant that we got, right? So that's been where a lot of the energy has been expended. We also are looking at, I've worked a lot with Mariana on trying to increase her outreach capacity, which gets her out of the library, which means we need to make sure that we have people in the library who are handling the people who come in. So all of that said, I would just say, there's not a new big ticket item I want to purchase this year. I should note though,
No copier.
as I told you, no copier, but it was the year, I kind of missed this, that the security cameras that we discussed years and years ago for the entryways was hitting the capital plan. And then I didn't know that they had a discussion about this. John kind of represented us because we were we had these conversations with him many years ago, and the cost of the technology has gone somewhat down, right? It's much easier to do cameras now in buildings. So I'm coordinating with John in the logistics, but at the moment we do have an approved, it's from the capital committee, but they approve the expenditure of those cameras. So there's, in addition to our budget, we also have that on the capital plan as well.
But that's
so that
two cameras at the entrance, right?
Yeah, one for downstairs and one for upstairs. But that is, we are getting something this year that's in addition. And that is something that, we can advocate for, because I still think, given the incident in Winchester a number of years ago, is that we need, security is always on my mind. And we need to make sure that the building is as safe for the library staff and the public as possible.
Yeah, I think those cameras are long overdue, and they're on the outside, not the inside.
Yeah.
So that's really good. The other thing I wanted to say was the salary classification study technically is supposed to be done for every town once every 5 years, correct? All right. So what happened was there was one done, and then 7 years elapsed before this one is done. Is the next one going to be done in 3 years or 5 years from this one? Do you know?
That's a question for the personnel board. I don't think they would initiate the process until the completion of one. They wouldn't do a 3-year one. They would do it in 5 years, most likely. But again, you're asking me a question that's a decision for the personnel board. So they would have to decide. I think, to their credit, even doing it in 7 years is, I'm glad that they took this on. It's a massive undertaking to work with a consultant. They have a new consultant for this round, so there was a new process to do it. I've tried to help out with that as much as possible, but the personnel board is a group that has had significant turnover over the years. I don't know that anybody on the existing board, maybe Barry, who's the chair, was there during the last study.
The last one, right?
He also may not have been there, now that I'm thinking about it, because we knew Betsy, and Betsy was chair for, I think, 3 years.
Right.
So she wasn't there during the last study either. So it's just, a lot of this is because she tried to get that going, and then now she's not even chair of the board. That gives you a good indicator of, the board just has turnover.
Right. And we should be aware as trustees that this is in theory anyway, every 5 years, a consultant is hired to come in and look at all the salaries and evaluate. Just saying. So, okay.
Brian, can I ask a question about the books and materials line item?
Sure.
So in this, it looks like that's kind of other than salaries, the biggest increase at 5.1%. Can you tell me what is driving that? Because in books and materials, we've separated out any subscriptions that would have any increase in costs, that's in the print and electronic subscriptions line items, correct?
Yeah, so that's a good note. And that's actually something we should say, Kim. So thank you for asking that question. There are materials that MBLC has kind of communicated to us, which are what you would call materials expenditures that are sort of non-book items, right? So any of the museum passes that we independently pay for, there's only a couple, right? And then the hotspots, right, which we have not talked about in this meeting, are actually all in that bucket.
Okay.
Also, the amount of the subscription costs, that doesn't affect educational supplies, but some of the subscription costs went up. So to try to make dues and subscriptions, I would say more digestible and more in line with what the line item is supposed to be. I kind of took anything that was like a not a magazine, but anything that's a barcoded item that gets paid for out of our budget is kind of going into the materials cost. That would probably have been a 4%er, like the office supplies and like the programming budget. The hotspots are kind of driving the additional like 1.1% in
Okay.
particular. It's a museum passes and the hotspots, I should say. It's both.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
And how many hotspots do we have now, Ryan?
We have 12,
And how popular are the hotspots?
very popular. We never have more than a quarter of them in at a time.
Wow. That's really good.
So they're a big ticket item. So I don't know that we're going to expand it. It seems like 12 might be enough. I was thinking about going up to 15 next year, but again, it's an additional expense. Just to give you an idea, the bill for the hotspots is just over 1,300 for the year
Okay,
for 12 of them. So they're not, I don't really think that's a significant expense given all that we do and given the popularity of the items.
That's true. All right. If there are any more questions about the budget that we're going to approve, do I have a motion to approve the 5% budget as presented?
I move to accept the,
Okay, that's
Budget
Jane, and do
as
I have a
written.
second?
Second,
Okay, and that's Janet. Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Eckberg,
Aye.
Trustee Davis,
I,
Trustee Reagan,
aye.
Trustee Maney.
aye.
Trustee Asdani, are you still with us?
She's not present.
All right, so I'm assuming that she would vote in favor, but we don't count that anyway. So yes, the motion carries. All right, good. Thank you, Ryan, for all your work on this. I know it's always an ongoing
no, no,
undertaking to get the budget done. The facade restoration project. Where are we
Uh,
on this?
Janet and I have continued on this. We did meet and we sat down and we came up with some great notes to kind of, send back to the attorney. I have a meeting on Monday, just to let you know, with John Parent to kind of go over the specific implications for the building. I know John is concerned about some of the language and the restrictions specifically on the grounds. So that might be something we even have to talk to DPW about, is one of the things he was saying. So, it's not supposed to cover the grounds. They're not supposed to be mentioned. So that's one of the things that we're going to look at. I have reached out to Lynn Spencer from SSV, who helped us with our facade restoration project. She was the lead architect along with Doug Manley. I just asked if we could get some of the architectural drawings on where the historic pieces of the building were, so that could be integrated into the restriction. So, I'm not expecting a lot of response during the holidays, to be blunt. I know a lot of people are very busy, and I know that Lynn has other projects, including the Southborough Townhouse, which is, they're the lead architects on that as well. So, I'm hoping to probably touch base with her in January. If I need to go through our previous documentations and try to separate out some of the drawings that we need to integrate into the restriction, I will do that. I was just hoping to get, Lynn has a level of expertise I'd like included.
What are we talking, like five drawings, or 10 or 20 or?
Not 20. I
How
don't know
how
about
big a
10
drawing is
either.
that?
I think, looking at previous restrictions, and Janet can definitely weigh in. But we're looking at somewhere like 3 to 5 is what I would say. We need to make sure that we, in the drawings, it's clearly established what is historic and what isn't. That's a big part of the restriction, right?
Oh, that's good, thanks. Janet, do you have anything to add to what Ryan has said?
Not really. I mean, I think you know, these things are always way more complicated than you expect them to be. I thought we could get out of this with a page or two. But I thought the basic format of the thing was fine. There were just a number of, you know, things that either don't apply or, you know, are non-specific enough, where it says like no additions can be made to the facade without a prior approval. It's like, well, we already have one. So we just eliminate that line. So things like that, that just somebody who doesn't know the project would put in. But I don't think it's going to be any knockdown, drag out arguments or anything.
Okay, so good. So
Just clarifications.
basically we'll wait to hear back from you when, you know, it's moved further along.
Okay.
How's that? Thank you for
But
your
it's-
work on that, by the way.
You know, I think continuing to have this as an agenda item, as bothersome as that might be, is crucial, because I think we need to talk, even if no progress has been made month to month, I think we still need to check in about it so that we can talk about what are the steps we can take. I would just say, you know, I really appreciate Janet's time on this. You know, she spent over an hour in my office and we just went through the thing like line by line by line, which is not always a fun job. It's a multi-page document, as many of you recall from looking at the previous one. So, you know, I have to say Janet's a trooper for sitting and doing that. And then she wrote up all the notes for the meeting too. So her commitment and her work has been tremendous. But remember, this is on my goals for next year. And I would like to mention, I have a feeling like by July, this is not going to be 100% done, but I'm trying to move forward with it as much as I can and include all our stakeholders. I think talking with John on Monday is going to be very helpful, at least at getting the pulse on, you know, where facilities is. There's some things I'd like to bring up with him that are in it that I think we need to also maybe clarify with the attorney.
That's good. So this is going to the town attorney, how many times so far?
So far, once they generated the document, and then
Okay.
we
I
haven't.
mean, we had discussions and you gave them a lot of material and then they generated, you know, the first pass.
Okay, good. So, all right, so standing agenda item until it's done. Sounds fine. All right, any other questions on that? And thank you again, Janet. Truly, it's we are grateful. Anyway, okay, native plants, we're tabling that. Staff Appreciation Week. David, you're on.
Well, this goes back to before this holiday gathering was scheduled coming up next Monday evening.
Monday.
So it's I think it's somewhat irrelevant at this point, but I'm aware of the fact that what was at one time, I'm told, a Christmas holiday series of supportive events to the staff has been moved to April. So I think that my guess, unless other people have strong feelings about it, that we probably, particularly since we don't have a whole lot of time, we probably ought to just stick with what we're going to do next Monday evening. I'm not sure, Ryan, you can help me. Who picks up the tab for this? In other words, do you need support from the trustees to pick up the tab?
I'm going to buy the sandwiches. That was kind of my plan. A lot of the staff are kind of potlucking the desserts. So they're either purchasing something or then they're bringing something. So those are kind of, it's more sort of a potluck based thing. So there's, I don't think, I mean, if you guys really, I guess, want to donate money, you know, that's something that we could talk about in the future. I think I had kind of planned on footing the bill for the, at least for the sandwiches that we're going to buy. And then there's also gifts that are being handed out. There's a specific gift that the Friends helped to fund. So I selected the items, but the staff are all going to get that at the party. And I know that Beth Mello from the Friends is planning on attending. And we've invited the executive board and some of the members who attend meetings. So they footed the bill for that piece. I'll
Is
say
this kind
that.
of a Friends sponsored event then?
No, it's like, this is I think of it as a library-wide event, right? Where we're all kind of communicating. So it's not sponsored by anyone in particular.
Oh,
This is kind of bringing all the groups together and then kind of just for like an hour celebrating the holidays and then having food and being able to see everybody. So I mean, I should really ask your permission if it's okay if we use the building Monday night
5:15,
from
5:15.
5:15. We will definitely wrap up by 7 at the latest. But the building will be closed to the public. It'll be for the people who've been invited to the holiday celebration. So
I think it's great to do that. I'm planning to go, and to bring something. So
Okay.
So if you want to bring something, you can get in touch with me. We have a little list of what the library staff is providing at this point. And I know Amy Yazdani reached out to me along with Beth. And I just said the one thing I hadn't thought about was bringing soda and water. A good reminder is we can't drink alcohol at this event because it's on municipal property. So as much as you may want your wine, you'll have to whine about not having wine because we're not doing that. So
not too rowdy, everybody.
Yeah.
Not
Always,
too rowdy.
always pre-game, Marguerite.
Good
How
idea,
about, I was gonna stop by too. How about cider? Would you like some?
that
cider?
would be great because I don't think anybody's doing that. I know Libby is bringing like a sparkling. I think she's bringing like a sparkling something. So I can shoot you that, Janet, to make sure it's not duplicating. But she likes the carbonated stuff. So.
Okay. You have cups and things or?
Yeah, we have like we get a lot of that from Cookbook Club. So that there, I think we have got plenty. I always joke some of the plates might have like pumpkins on it because we use like old holiday stuff. So as long as that
Turkeys,
doesn't
right,
bother
yeah.
you.
I'm still using up my kids' graduation from kindergarten plates. It's like I won't buy more plates until these are gone.
Right.
But
There's
again,
always-
you guys, I've said this now, this is my 3rd time. I do love a bargain. So if there are old plates, old paper plates that you want to donate to the library, we will be accepting donations for this event. So feel free to.
Well, I would just say that it's very generous of you, Ryan, and I don't know if I should be uncomfortable or not with the fact that you're doing this out of your own pocket, but I will reserve the right, if I may, to conspire behind your back, and maybe we, the trustees, can come up with something to make it cost neutral for you.
Right. Ryan, you are also part of the staff we are appreciating for this. It's not like you have, done nothing all year here. So, yeah, okay, so
I feel very appreciated by the board. I just,
Oh,
I know when we hired that first assistant director, she gave you guys all a bottle of wine at one of the trustee meetings. I probably won't be doing that, just
Thank
to let you know. But
Thank you. Okay, so that's Monday, the 19th, 5:15, right?
Yep.
Great. All right. So shall we move on to the famous flood mitigation, agenda item number 8. Ryan, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so this is just, I know that there was a lot of information that was going back and forth between what a member of the planning board and with members of our board, just about sort of documentation and about what has been done regarding the flood for the library. So I did get a chance to briefly touch base with Karen Galligan, our DPW superintendent, and with John Parent. We've been talking a lot about the restriction as well. There was information provided from John with our insurance agent at Maya, who was, he was kind of the lead person who we were coordinating the remediation efforts. So just to clarify, stuff on flood remediation when we flooded would be with the facilities department. Stuff on flood prevention at the library is really with DPW. What my responsibility is, and in working with all of you, is really on operating the library, right? Making sure that the library runs, making sure that we have the sufficient budget in order to, kind of have a library in the town of Southborough. I think a lot of us individually and as a group have been before the select board, have been before the Main Street Working Group, back when that was a thing several years ago, to address concerns of flooding. I was talking about flooding at the library before I myself experienced a flood if you recall, I was part of some of those working group meetings, and I was going to the select board to kind of bring up issues regarding water. Water was something that was a recurring problem in the library. If we had heavy rainfall, we didn't have a flood, but we would have water that would come in through Eaton. And we were constantly trying to investigate why that was happening and what were preventative methods we could take. Where we've landed with all of this, right, which I think we need to state for the record, is that if you look at the topography of where the library sits, there is no way to 100% prevent flooding at the library. And I'm saying this because we're not alone in that assessment. There are libraries all over the country that have to make that same statement, where I don't know if anything is 100% preventable, is sort of what I'm going to let you know. We have communicated to the parties what the issues have been, and we did some in-depth investigation after the last flood, right? Where we discovered a well line that was on the edge of the property near where the original frog sits, that was closed up as a result of that project. Also, as part of the Main Street reconstruction, we discovered, water that was literally running underground, which we believe was a factor in some of the flooding here. I will say, after the Main Street project was completed, we did not see water coming into the library in the same way again. That stopped. I think what was happening in the Eaton room specifically was that well line. I think what was happening in other areas of the library might have been related to that stream. I am not a structural engineer, so I can't really speak to this, but I will tell you that I feel pretty confident in the work of the DPW and of facilities in doing the best we can to prevent flooding. We also have water alarms now throughout the library. So if there is water intrusion, the necessary parties are notified immediately. And then Marguerite reminded me the addition of the sump pumps, which was one of the PAR recommendations. That was all done as part of the remediation efforts too, and additional sump pumps were added. So that has all been additional factors in preventing flooding. But I cannot give a 100% guarantee that we're never going to flood again. So anybody who, I know we have some attendees watching, I just want to re-communicate that is where we're at with this.
Can I just quickly hop in, since I've been on the board for 12 years or 11 years or however long it is, that the PAR report was done originally before the Main Street project, and it had a number of mitigations which the DPW and facilities did. They were understood to be sort of like what we could do before the Main Street project. After the Main Street project, there's been 2 major lines run out to the stormwater. The brook that was a problem has been encapsulated in a pipe by Karen. There's 2 sumps up at the St. Mark Street Park, which were put in, again, to take groundwater out of there. John Parent closed up the well line that was coming in through the Eaton room through a pipe, because the library used to get water from a well in the front lawn, which is that manhole cover, which has a groundwater table. So, and the 5 catch basins that we have in the parking lot that dead-ended in the middle of the lawn are now connected to stormwater. So very, very, very much has been done by DPW and facilities to mitigate the water problem. And I am actually very optimistic about it at this point. But it has been a long process, and it required major drainage construction, and that has been done by the DPW and by John Parent. So I am cautiously optimistic that we are going to have a dry library from now on. So again, not 100%, can't guarantee anything, but we're in so much better shape than we were 10 years ago. It's like a whole different waterscape out there. So just saying. And if anyone wants more details, I've got paperwork going back for 12 years on flood mitigation. So there we are. On that.
As the operating director of the library, I do not receive detailed reports of road work from DPW. And to be honest, a lot of the coordination and conversations I was a lot more involved in the remediation efforts, obviously, because we were trying to remediate from the flood downstairs while we were trying to successfully operate at the library at the same time. This is a good reminder that we were closed a total of 9 days as a result of the remediation efforts. And part of that was because we physically couldn't be in the building some of the days.
Yeah.
I think we were open again 2 days after we flooded. It was something insane like that. It boggles my mind that we were able to operate the upstairs with the condition the downstairs was in. If you guys recall that, it was
Remember? It was
not,
amazing.
Jane was in the building a lot, as was Marguerite, as was Kim. It smelled, it was awful during that period. So John and I had to be on the phone conservatively 45 minutes every night after we were done work to talk about what the plan was with service master, right? That was the people who were helping us with the remediation. We had to kind of plan out what the next day was going to be. And it was like that for a number of weeks. So when I tell you I always say this about John, but I'll give myself a little credit here. The hours that we were committing to making sure that the library was able to operate and able to get back. I know it took almost a year to get back on our feet, right? But it really was that long. And part of this was trying to make sure that we were doing things right, that we were trying to make sure that the building was more ADA compliant as a result of some of the remediation efforts. All of that were factors, right? So there was a lot that went into it. In addition to purchasing, we had to purchase all new furniture. Like, it was just massive what had to happen. So a lot of those conversations were verbal. I had regular meetings with the service master representatives and John. And then, there wasn't documentation that was being presented as a result of that, because we would make decisions and then they would go and do those things. So as far as documents that I have regarding the flood, I don't have them. So that's part of it. Marguerite is great. She keeps everything, and she was present for when the library initially flooded in 2011. And I wouldn't have the PAR study unless Marguerite gave it to me. So that's just where we're at with it. That's just what I wanted to publicly state, so that members of the planning board, so that anybody who's kind of coming in new and fresh to this situation, they have kind of that historical background. So I know I had to spend a lot of time in this meeting about it, but there's been a lot of communications back and forth. So I think clarifying that point, getting it in our minutes for this meeting, all of that is important. So thank you.
And hopefully we've had our last flood.
Can I ask a separate but somewhat related thing? Has there been
Of
any
course.
leaking in the ceiling?
No, not since the encapsulation work. Yeah, not since that is related, Janet, because a dry library is a happy library. You like my 2023 slogans? So since the stonework has been encapsulated on the top, we have not seen any serious water intrusions, and we've been checking. We get the most rainfall in Massachusetts in September, so there was particular attention paid to it during that month, and facilities was up on the roof double checking some of the things. As far as we can determine, to the best of our knowledge, water is not coming in through the stonework above the roof.
Good. That's a success story.
Mhm.
It is.
If
It's been a
you
long way
recall,
to get in there.
the water intrusion on the roof took a while. This stuff takes a while because we didn't know what the problem was. We needed
Well,
to
you fix one
investigate it.
problem, you realize there's more to it, and there's more to it, and there's more to it.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, I recently was having a conversation with somebody. The fact that water was coming in there and we noticed it meant that the work they did on the roof was successful. It meant that water was coming in through the roof the whole time. It just was being diverted in a different place that we didn't know and was causing damage, right? So in a way, it was good that that happened so that we were able to deal with that problem.
Get to
So-
the source. Yeah.
Yes, but listen, we have tried to the best of our ability to solve water problems, both below and above.
Yeah.
Okay, so far, I mean, the snow is going to be a test, right?
Yes.
This season, and we're going to see what happens when the snow melts, because
they
that
back
can be a
up.
factor too. So when I tell you that despite me kind of saying we're at the best place we've ever been with water prevention, I remain ever vigilant.
Yes.
That is my commitment to you, because there's no way that I can. I'm telling you, we heard on the news, right, that the storm incoming, they were like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it might not be snow, it might be rain. And I said, well, in some ways that worries me more,
Yeah,
you know?
yes, I do know.
So we should keep the L word in our lexicon just in case. Is that
That's
it?
leak, the leak word.
The L word, yes.
That's good. I think it's great that we've gotten to the point where Ryan's sole responsibility as far as water is to be looking for leaks and not finding them.
It's true. That you
Yeah.
want a water feature, we'll give you water features, right?
It's very humbling to be on my knees on the ground checking for wet spots,
Yeah.
because that literally happens sometimes after heavy rainfall.
Part
So
of your job description, right? Water mitigation. That's great. Any other comments about our now dry, knock on wood, library? Yes, no? All right. I think we have a public comment section. Does any members of the public want to? I don't think we have anybody with us.
we do. We have
do. Wait a
Sam
minute, we've got
Stivers.
attendees. Let me check.
We
Okay.
have Sam Stivers and we have
Grant. Yeah.
Grant Farrington. So if you want to provide any public comment, you can raise your hand and I'm happy to.
Looks like a no.
Yep.
All right. But thank you
Okay.
for sitting through our meeting. We appreciate the public interest. Sam and Grant, that's great. I would like to add one other issue into any other business that shall properly come before the board. I don't know how other people feel about this, but the Westboro Library went to town meeting again for their expansion and it was voted down.
Yeah.
And I think that there may be, I don't know, Ryan, do you want to speak to that just briefly? It doesn't have to be a long discussion. I just think in solidarity with the Westboro Library Expansion Project, it wouldn't hurt to just go on the
The
record.
Westboro Library Building Committee is going to continue to meet. They are trying to come up with their best path forward. I think it is disappointing. I think this is not the vote that was they were expecting. I know that, Mr. Ekberg noted to me that he saw some signs that were kind of against the building project that went up shortly before the special town meeting. I think for a lot of the residents of Westboro, unfortunately, this was, a dollars and cents issue. This was just that the construction costs had ballooned to a point where there were residents who weren't comfortable with it. This is not uncommon in projects for them to be voted down initially. This happened with Shrewsbury. We've noted a number of times. It happens with many projects, 2 or 3 times before they get approval. Kind of getting defeats at a town meeting can be something that informs the process, right? It talks about, I don't know if Westboro is going to go back to the designs and look at having something that might be a lower price point. That might be something that they consider. I can't speak for the building committee there, but I do think as far as calling our local elected officials and letting them know that library construction is important and doing advocacy work there, all of that is kind of important. So if that's something you want me to connect you to, I'm sure that this is going to be a topic in some of the legislative breakfasts that are coming up. So I know the closest to us will be Worcester. And I will definitely forward you information about those breakfasts where we will have they are trying to get Senator Warren to attend, and apparently have been in touch with somebody from her office. So it might end up being a kind of a big event, not to put them on the spot because her schedule might not allow for that. But I would just say, while disheartening, I think that hopefully this is a learning experience for everybody. And then, it's not the end, is what I'll say too.
Okay, that's good. Any other comments or questions about it? I know there was the loan for the library, the bonding had required a $300 tax increase for everybody the first year, and then 120 the second year, and then I think 60 the third year. There may be something in that we should look at in terms of if we decide to expand, how we would recommend or want it to be funded in terms of the tax increases on that. Just
I am hoping that when I was going to say if when, but really when the library proposes an expansion project in the future, that construction costs would be more stable than they are now. I think part of this is timing, really is, and timing worked to our benefit with our CPA funded project, right? We were able to come in under budget, in a lot of respects, and we were able to do additional work that we may not have been able to completed with the funding, which was great. I mean, every add-on we wanted to do as a result that helped to strengthen the building, including encapsulating the top to prevent water leakage. That was an additional project, if you recall, that was helpful, and we still were able to turn back money at the end, right? You don't always have that flexibility. And I think that's just a good reminder of this, is that sometimes you're in mid-project and you have to go to a town meeting to authorize additional funding for what you want to do. So that, I mean, all of this is good to note. It's not everybody just blanket approvals library projects, is that it can definitely be a journey, and it will be for Westboro.
Yes, go ahead, Janet.
The thing that was concerning to me about the Westboro situation is it just missed getting approved at town meeting. You need a 2/3 vote, and it just missed it. But when they went to the special town meeting, it got killed.
Yeah, it was like
There were way more votes against it than for it. It wasn't just a 2/3. It was. So I don't know what that means in terms of some people mobilized, obviously, or didn't, maybe, I don't know. That's discouraging.
Well, I just say I totally support Westboro in their huge, long journey, and I'm guessing probably everybody on our trustee board does too. So it must be quite disappointing, and the story's not over. So there we are. Anyway, any other comments, suggestions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, I have two quick things.
Okay.
And then, but I saw Jane raise her hand, and
No, I just have an appointment at 1, so talk quickly.
I'm gonna go quick. So I sent out the draft of the town meeting report. That's something that I do every year. If you guys have any editorial feedback, it was a very rough draft is what I sent you, because I wanted you to have something prior to the meeting. I have to submit this to the town before our next meeting, right? Very similar to the CPC grant cycle. So if you do have any edits, try to get those to me quickly. I will try to integrate, as much trustee feedback as I can. This is a good snapshot of the year. It is something that I update. I try to keep the same general format year to year, but I do try to highlight everything that I can. I always want to add 2 extra pages, and we're one of the only departments that gets 3. I'll say that. So I try to keep it to the 3-page. So just send me those, or leave them on my desk, as time allows. If any of you want to sit down and go over it, let me know.
All right, sounds good.
And then finally, I think at our next January meeting, this will also the DPW superintendent, Karen Galligan, will not be working for the town any longer. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of publicly thank her for, you know, the 8 years that I've worked with her on contributing projects to the library. You know, she definitely made the library, I think, a priority as a public building. In particular, you know, there were some highlighted projects. We had all that ivy that was on the front of the library that was very, very pretty, but very, very bad and toxic for the brickwork. She was able to remove that, work with the crew to remove that very quickly. And then she's stopped different ivy patches that have popped up over the years too. So when I reach out to her, that always gets done very, very quickly. She helped to establish that safety sidewalk. I don't know if any of you remember before the sidewalk was there, but she created a sidewalk from our parking lot entrance that led to the parking lot because I raised concerns about the safety for people driving really fast down that area. And there were always kids walking back and forth, and it was really stressed me out whenever I saw that. And then she was able to get that done. You know, there's any number of frogs now that are on the property that she helped us to install, the dedication of frogs.
right.
You know, she provided a lot of support to the Eagle Scout projects. If you remember, we did not like where those planters initially went in. That was all DPW in helping us to relocate those and to remove the bushes where they ended up. She also helped significantly with the that seating area that's on the front. And then, I mean, a big one is that big tree that went down. Remember that hit the hit the car that was at the intersection. So she was able to get that tree out before it hurt or injured anybody else. You know, all of those efforts were appreciated. So I will just say, you know, I'm looking forward to collaborating with the new TPW superintendent, but I really appreciate the commitment and efforts that have been made by the previous superintendent over the years. So
Absolutely.
thank you,
I
Karen.
support that 100%. I may even just drop her a line and say thank you. There was the ivy removal next to the front door, which was soaking in water and sending it into the children's room. That's gone. It was bricked over. There were any number of unsung fabulous things. And the other part of it was linking our 5 drains to the stormwater and doing the berm to keep the parking lot drier, and also dealing with the sumps up north of the library. These are all things that she did that that didn't get attention, but they've made a huge, huge, huge amount of improvement in the library situation. So
Installation of the story walk. I mean,
yeah,
she also removed multiple wasp and bees nests that have
right,
cropped up at the library
right.
too, which I don't always tell you guys about because we try to get rid of that very quickly. She's also removed poison ivy on the property. I mean, there's been any number of, yeah, I am very needy, guys. I know you know that. So, you know, I've had to coordinate a lot with DPW on making the building and the grounds specifically safer for
Yeah.
the public. And she has always been responsive to those. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the work
Yeah.
that's been done.
That's
So
sort of an unsung work, unsung great work that that I for one appreciate. I know the whole board probably does. So that part is good. All right. Any other comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Our next meeting, by the way, scheduled for January 20th, Friday, 11 o'clock Zoom.
I will be able to do that.
Okay, I need to go
Um,
right now, so I move we adjourn.
All right.
okay.
Jane moves, I'll second. Marguerite will second. I vote yes, we adjourn. David.
Yes,
Oh.
aye.
Jane.
Janet, if
Aye.
everybody but Jane can hang out,
All right.
Jane, can we send you the next meeting so that you know?
Yeah, you said January 20th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
So Janet,
We
Do you
haven't finished
want me-
voting. Do we need to finish voting, Marguerite?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh,
Kim?
Hi.
Okay, and Amy is not with us. All right, so we are adjourned. It
And
is,
I vote aye.
oh, sorry, Jan.
That's
Okay, it is 12:39. We are adjourned. Now, as far as our next meeting, Janet, can you make it on the 20th?
No, I cannot. I will be in the
Okay.
car. I could make it on the 13th.
You want to aim for 13th?
Fine with me.
Everybody okay with 13th?
It would mean that might be, okay. Can I just say that that was part of the reason I wanted to hang back for a minute? The 13th might be better. Because there's a thing I mentioned in the director's report, but didn't state in the meeting, which is that I know a resignation is coming before the end of the year. I think I'm going to get it either Monday or Tuesday, just
Okay.
of a library associate who is ready to, she's at the end of her working career. So I think she's looking to, kind of retire permanently.
Aw.
So yes, so hopefully it'll be somebody, I don't know if they're going to make an announcement at the holiday party. I think that might have been the idea, or to do it the day after so everybody could have a good time. But she's asked for some discretion while I kind of worked with her on this and gave me kind of a heads up, which not everybody does. So I appreciate that. So I know I'm kind of being vague on purpose, but I will send you that resignation notice once I get it formally.
All right.
I will have to hire somebody to fill that vacancy. We might be done that process by the 13th. That would be when I really need to start getting somebody new in place. So the 13th might work better for me. And then for budgets, I would also say we might have to approve a revised budget. So if we can do it earlier in the month, that is also
right.
helpful. So if other
Okay.
people can do the 13th, I think we're fine with booking that day.
Okay,
What time
so
on the 13th, please?
11?
11.
At 11 again. Okay.
Yes. Anybody?
I should
have-
also note to you guys, sorry, Marguerite, to cut you
No,
off again, but we can do Zoom meetings right now, January, February, March. After March, I don't know. So I'm gonna, I'll get back to you on whether or not that gets extended. I would say, given our new governor, it's likely that we might be able to continue virtual meetings, but I'm not sure. So I will let you know.
Okay.
But I
as
cut
a-
you off, Marguerite.
No,
so.
I'm just saying, as a new member of the accessibility committee, I'm thinking that
For you.
Zoom meetings are good
Well,
for people that-
congratulations.
Oh, yes. I actually am enjoying it a lot, but I think Zoom meetings are good for people that can't get to actual meetings. So there we are on that. That's a piece of irrelevant opinion. So let's say that the 13th is tentatively our next meeting date, Friday, the 13th. Ooh, exciting. At 11 o'clock.
Does that
and-
work for you, Kim?
Yep, that works for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great. And also the holiday get together at the library 19th, next Monday, 5:15, if you're so inclined. All right?
Yeah, if you guys want to come a little bit early, you can, but we'll still
Okay.
have members of the public up until 5. So
Good. Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to leave the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ryan, for your electronic and IT support as ever. And have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.